Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and I finally got my hands on an HTC One M8, actually two of them. This one has to go back. You can see I've got it in the gunmetal gray and also in the amber. I like this one a lot better. So the reason that I have two and the reason that this needs to go back is that I was hearing some crackling from the speakers when listening to music and also when watching Netflix. And I didn't want to end up having a defective unit, especially as I go into my review, so I just erred on the side of caution and got myself a replacement. Once playing around with this color, I didn't really like it, so it gave me an option to get the gray one. So no harm, no foul. So looking at what we've got in the box, I'm sure you've all seen this before. You've just got your adapter here. It's only 1.5 amps. You've got your earbuds. And you've also got a charging cable. I wish it was longer. Really, they chintz out on the length. And they give you this SIM ejection tool, which is glued to this piece of paper. In the past, I've always removed this little guy here, but I'm going to leave it on here. This is an ejection tool for two different things on this device. We've got one right here, and we've also got one right here. So this is the Nano SIM card tray. It's deceivingly big. I would have thought that it would be a bigger SIM, but yes, it's nano, just like the iPhone 5, iPhone 5S. And then we've also got a micro SD card slot, so that is really very nifty. I'm very happy to have that 32 gigabytes onboard storage, in addition having the ability to expand it. There's a lot going around about this phone, making fun of the camera, making fun of a lot of the features, such as the size of the phone. Granted, this is quite a tall phone here. Yes, the camera is not the best. Yes, if anything, it can be considered gimmicky. I know that a lot of people don't care to have boom sound speakers on their device and they're just happy enough to have a headphone jack. But the actual usability of this device has been quite nice. And it provides a different kind of experience for me that makes me want to keep this in my pocket. So even though we've got plenty of gimmicks on this phone, this is a device that I feel is quite different from a lot of other Android devices out there. So I want to call this the experience phone. So taking a little bit of a look around the phone, the first thing I did point out earlier is that we've got two different colors here. It actually comes in three separate colors, but that one's not available for the developer edition, unfortunately. It's the silver color that was released on the M7. That's the nicest looking one in my opinion. I think this one's the runner-up, and then we've got this one as well. Now, while I really do like this color, I've kind of started making fun of it a little bit. I've named it Chef Gordon Ramsay for a pretty much obvious reason. It looks like a piece of silverware or a refrigerator, something that you should find in a kitchen. So I'm just going to nickname it Chef for short. My little nice Chef Gordon Ramsay here. And then we've got something totally different here. It's an amber color, but it's more of a matte look to it. I do like the feeling of this one just a little bit better. This one I notice I'm able to really get smudged with fingerprints on the back, but still they're pretty elegant looking phones. HTC has 86 that injection molding plastic. Thankfully, it looks like it's a unibody design now. We do have a little bit of injection molding where we have the antennas, but you can see that it's very solidly built, and this is probably the nicest built Android device that I have ever seen. Of course, there's a little bit of differences in quality control. One of them that I have noticed, and something I didn't notice right away until I got the second one, is that the volume rocker can be a little bit wobbly on some of them. Some people complain that when they shake their phone it rattles. This one is not that bad, but you can see definitely it is quite wobbly, and that's something that's frustrating for some people. Although for some reason I didn't quite notice and didn't care, because the rest of the device is just so immaculate. But you can see living proof that not all of them are like this. This is very firm. So that's pleasing that the second device I got is even more nicely built. You can see we've got a little piece of plastic up here. We've got a power button at the top, which very much is woe is me, because look at my hands. You think I could ever reach that power button up there? That's ridiculousness. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But you can see that it's uniform all across the top. We do have the infrared blaster, so it looks like they just made it a look. And I think it looks quite nice. It gives it an interesting accent. I'm really happy that they've got this milled to perfection. On the M7, they had that injection molding, and there was a little bit of a gap between the injection molding and the metal part that we have here for the speaker. But that is not something that we have to worry about anymore. And everything just looks so clean. So of course you've got your charging port, standard earphone jack. On the front, interestingly, we've got a 5 megapixel front facing camera. That's something that we only see usually on Chinese phones. It's really funny that the front camera on here happens to be of a higher resolution than the ultra pixel camera on the back, which I am convinced is the exact same sensor as last year's. All they've done is essentially remove the optical image stabilization. And then they say, bada bing, bada boom, it's a different camera. Lies! All lies! I do really want to give the camera a chance, so I'm going to take lots of pictures, take lots of video. I don't want to dismiss it right away, and neither do I want to dismiss all of the neat features on it right away. We've also got a secondary camera right here, which is just for depth information. We've got a dual LED flash here. You can see that it's two separate colors. You've got the HTC logo, and you can tell that I don't have any branding on mine. That's because this is the developer edition. So this is the purest of pure HTC M8. So what we're running on here is 4.4.2 KitKat. It's right out of the box, 4.4.2 KitKat. I'm curious to see what kind of updates I'm going to be getting on this developer version, and how often I will be getting updates. It's got a Snapdragon 801 SoC. It's got 4 Crate 400 cores clocked at 2.3 GHz, not 2.5 GHz. Actually, the Asian model is 2.5 GHz. So some people are knocking it down a little bit, upset maybe that it's got a lower quality SoC in it. But so far for me, it's really been very nice and smooth, so I'm not complaining so much. It's got an Adreno 330 GPU. I'm going to have more time to play with games, but so far it's been nice and smooth. This is more or less just a very first impressions. So I will be doing many more videos on this, and I'm sure I'll do a comparison as well. I'm going to have the Galaxy S5 with me tomorrow, actually 2 different versions. I'm going to have an AT&T model and a T-Mobile model, so I'm really excited to be able to compare everything at one time. So what makes this device special then? Well, a lot of people make fun of the fact that the button is so far at the top here, but at least we have the ability to double tap. It's like, oh yeah, who cares? The LG G2 has done this. You can double tap, turn it off. But what I like about what HTC has done specifically is there's a couple of other things you can do, such as if you go from the left, you're easily able to activate blink feed here, which you can disable. I'm very happy that I can disable it right out of the box. If you just go upward, it unlocks it. So if I happen to be underneath Hangouts and I happen to be chit-chatting with somebody and I don't want to go ahead and go up to the top and turn this on, I can easily just swipe upward and it brings me right into the program that it was on when I had put it on standby. So I have found that to be a nice feature. If you go down from the top, you have voice activation. You can say call whoever, which in my experience has worked alright so far. And then if you go from the right here, it says you have access to widgets. I haven't been able to enable that yet. I'm assuming they mean lock screen widgets. Another nice feature that I like is if you take the phone, if it's in standby, and you hold down on the volume button, you can see that it activates the camera, so that's quite nice, although sometimes I see it's kind of gimmicky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You probably have to hold it just upright like this, so that the accelerometer recognizes that you're holding it in this landscape position. Again, with all these features, I want to emphasize that this is really an experience phone. I don't find some of the features too practical, but they're interesting. One of the ones I consider more practical, though, are these really gorgeous speakers. Now, I mentioned before, I got this one because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a defective device going into reviewing it. So what I noticed with these speakers is that they're really loud, very crisp and clear, until you get to really high volume, and sometimes I do hear some clipping, some crackling, but in general the speakers are very, very good. I'm going to be doing more testing to try to see the limits and the boundaries of these speakers, but for me it really is worth it, and it makes Netflix just so much more worth it than on any other device that I've experienced. The display on this device is really nice and crisp. It's 5 inches, it's also Gorilla Glass 3. So instead of 4.7 inches, we do have some room now for these on-screen buttons. And so far they haven't been too annoying. Although, of course, now in some applications you do get those gray dots that sit there at the bottom instead of it going into full screen. I'm going to check more into that. But just looking at these displays, one thing I notice is that there are a little bit of differences. This is something that's to be expected. The calibration seems to be just the same to me, but what's different is the white balance. I noticed that this display is a little bit more on the blue side, and this one's a bit warmer. I do think that warmer displays are more favorable because they're more towards neutral. And the more neutral you have, I would like to just say the more whiter the whites can appear. So when I have a chance, I'm going to be doing some measurements to see what's going on with the calibration. But right off the bat, I can see that they're doing some interesting things with the calibration. Instead of this being a straight line here, you can see that it kind of forks to the left for the yellow. It's forking right here for the cyan as well, and also for the magenta. So they're taking the saturation and they're tweaking it. I also see that some of the greens look a little bit too green, kind of a neon green when I look at something. I think that the Hangouts is a little bit too green, and other various things. But still, this is a very nice display. It pops, it juts right at your face. HTC did a great job last year. The same thing with the M7. It's got really good viewing angles. And aside from it being interestingly calibrated and it being a little bit on the blue side, depending on which phone you get, really, it is a very nice display. And again, I will be doing some measurements to see just what's going on. I don't want to say things that are premature too soon. So I noticed right away with this camera that it is 16:9 aspect, and if you change it to 4/3, which you can do, it ends up being considered a crop. So not only does it end up being a lower resolution, because 16:9 is the 4 megapixel, but if you go underneath edit, let's go ahead and take a picture that's cropped first. I realize that all my other images are on this device. So it's got a 4:3 crop, and normally you should be able to go underneath edit, and it's got all these cool features. So underneath effects, unfortunately, if the photo is cropped or if it's 4:3 aspect, anything is going to tell you, sorry, unavailable for cropped photos. So keep in mind that all these effects, these gimmicks that are included with this phone, which I will get into in quite some depth in videos to come, you can only use them in 16:9. So that's something that's a little bit upsetting for me. Also, I noticed right away, if you take a picture of something up close, just like this, for example, it's going to tell you for everything unavailable for close-up photos. So you can only use these new gimmicky features if it's in a 16:9 aspect, and also if it's not a macro focus. The last thing that I want to take a look at really quickly is this dot view case. This is something that I'm going to actually be doing a full review on because I think it's actually deserving a full review. This is a very interesting accessory. So basically it's just a flip case. I don't think it's the most protective flip case, and I don't think it fits the best, but it's going to protect your back at least from scratches. And at least it's got some interesting functionality. So you just pop it in. You can see it doesn't go over the sides all the way. That's something that I don't think is a very good idea because it's very easy to flex and to come off. But when you close it, it's got a sensor in here. It's probably a magnet. When you open it up, you see it turns on your phone for you, turns it off when you shut it. And you've got other various features, such as if you go double tap, you can see notifications here. If you double tap again, it's going to turn off. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hard to see in direct sunlight. I've only had this for a few hours, and that's something that I can say already. And also, I noticed that when holding the phone in hand, it's very easy to activate the double tap feature for some reason. Maybe it's because when I put my hand like this, I happen to touch it with both my thumbs, and for some reason it thinks that I've double tapped it. It's not doing it right now, but I do notice that it turns itself on quite a bit. Also, when you double tap it, you can use the volume rocker to change your volume status. You can easily get it on vibrate or on silent. So that's really nice and functional. Double tap to turn it off again. Oh, you can see right there I accidentally turned it on, and that was just me holding it in two different places with my thumbs. So I worry about battery life with it turning on like that. You can see it works like that. Basically makes everything black underneath it. So there's no magic to it, but it is quite neat. I think it's quite nice. One thing that people are complaining about, oh, did it again, is the fact that when you open it up, you're blocking the camera. And some people have quite a hard time when they're holding it because this flap doesn't go all the way against that bent back. So it gives you quite a bit of give. So when you're texting, it kind of bounces about. I have found that the best way to accommodate for this is just simply hold your hand underneath like this. Use the other hand to hold it in place. And then you don't have to smash it. You can simply just type like this, and it's working just fine for me. I do find it a bit convenient when you're trying to take a picture in portrait mode. You don't want this to swing back on you because it's going to turn off the phone. So it is also a gimmicky case, but it does have quite a bit of a nice experience to it. If you're using HTC applications like the HTC Texting app or the HTC Mail app, it'll also show you notifications on your screen. So unfortunately, it doesn't have support yet for things like Google Hangout or even Google Gmail. So I'm hoping to see a bit of a design improvement with this. We'll see what happens over time with it. I do enjoy it though. It's not something that I want to get rid of. I will use it. It does add to the overall experience of the phone. So nice case, interesting design. You can argue about the practicality of it, but I do like it, and I will be doing a full review later on this. So this has been my very short unboxing look. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. I just wanted to give you my overall first impressions of things that I am noticing with this device. Great little device. I really like how much of a different experience it is from the other Android phones on the market right now. So this is the experience phone for me. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Also, I write a lot of things on Google+. I put a lot of posts lately on Google+. New things that I'm finding, new developments. And if I find something that I want to talk about, you guys can engage with me on there. So I'm going to put a link in the description to get to my Google+. When I'm not making video reviews, I do talk about certain features here and there on there. So please join me on Google+. So again, I will be making a lot more videos. I'm kind of rushed today because I got to get this one back in the box and back to HTC before they keep my money. So have a good night, everybody.